Hey guys, this is going to be part 1 of comparing two 3-digit numbers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do I think there's 8 problems on this section of worksheets. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through half of them, so about 4 of them, and then I'll post a part 2 if it's taking a long time, because sometimes those videos run a little bit long. But if I'm able to fit it all in on one video, we'll just do that. So this might be part 1, or it just might be the whole thing, okay? So remember that when we are comparing numbers, we are telling if they are greater than another number, if they are less than another number. And so some vocabulary that you might want to remember is greatest, or greater. And the sign that is going to show if a number is greater than or the greatest number is going to be this sign right here. And that's located on your keyboard by the comma and the period. If you're needing to type something out, just know that it's there. And remember that it could the other terms that you might see are less than, least, and that sign is going to look like this. Now remember, there can also be some equal to equations, and you would just use the equal sign for those, okay? Now remember that to determine whether to use the greater than or the less than sign is going to depend on the order of the numbers that you're looking at, okay? So if you have two sets of numbers like this, 114, and you're comparing that to 232. And you need to look and think about the order of the numbers. We read left to right, and so we're going to read numbers left to right, okay? And so when you're thinking about the greater than or the less sign, you know that if this number on this side is greater, the symbol is going to look like this, okay? And then if the number over here is less than, the equation is going to look, if the number over here on this left side right here, if this number is less than, then you know that your symbol is going to look like this, because the greater than would be over here. So just again, let me go over that one more time. So we are reading numbers left to right, okay? So it depends on the order of the numbers. So if this number on this side is bigger, the symbol is going to look like this. But if the number on this right side over here is less than, the symbol is going to look like this. Okay, so it's important to think about the order and remembering, okay, which one's the greater than sign, which one's the less than sign. You have to think about how we read left to right. So again, one more time. If the number on this side of the equation is greater than, the symbol is going to look like this. Okay, if the number on this side is less than, the symbol is going to look like this. If the two numbers are the same, it would look like this, okay? So again, this is greater than, this is less than, and this is equal. And it's important to remember that we read the equations like this. If I have these two numbers, I would read it as 114 is less than 232. Or if my equation might say this, 432 and 112. 432 is greater than 112. Or you might have something like this. 132 is equal to 132. Okay, so that's just some vocabulary that we might need to use as we are working on comparing. Okay, so Remember, if you don't have enough room on this paper, you can go ahead and get a separate sheet of paper. Just remember to label it comparing two-digit problems, the title of this page right here, okay? So you can keep your work organized. So let's start with number 1. Sophie has 2 hundreds, 1 10, and 4 ones on her place value mat. Cody has 100, 12 tens, and 3 ones on his place value mat. Sophia thinks her number is bigger because she has 2 hundreds and Cody only has 100. Is she right? Explain your thinking using pictures, numbers, and words, okay? So I am going to do my best to fit my work on this page right here, okay? So I'm going to show Sophia's or Sophia's work over here. So she has 2 hundreds, and they're actually on a place value mat. So I could go ahead and just draw my place value mat right here. So 100, tens, ones. So she has 2 hundreds, she has 1 10, and 4 ones. Okay, and then Cody over here, he has 100, he has 12 tens, and he has 3 ones. Now, on Sophia's number, I don't see any regrouping, so her number is actually going to be 214 when I look at her place value chart, okay? However, Cody, I see that he has way too many tens, and so I would need to regroup those. And so I need 10 of these tens. I'm going to regroup that to 100, okay? So when I look at his chart now, his number is actually going to be 223. And so Sophia thinks that her number is bigger because she started with more hundreds, but actually Cody had 200s, but he had it in a different way because of these 12 tens. Okay, he actually had 100 over here. So you would need to explain that Cody actually has the biggest number, and you can explain that by showing your work like this, or you can write it out and show how you regrouped. Either one of those is fine with me. Okay, so number 2. At the zoo, a baby giraffe weighs 225 pounds. The baby hippo weighs 110 pounds, and the baby elephant weighs 268 pounds. Who weighs the most? Who weighs the least? And how do you know? So I would kind of organize my thought like this, like maybe create a chart or something like the most, the least. Okay, so the person who weighs the most would be the baby elephant. And how I could show that I know is by creating a comparison equation, okay, that 268 is greater than 225 and 268 is greater than 110, okay? The person who weighs the least is going to be the hippo. And I know this because 110 is less than 225 and 110 is less than 268. Okay, so this right here would be showing how you know you're creating those equations. Okay, let's jump down to number 3. The following data shows the number of visitors at the zoo over the weekend. All right, so over here we have the visitors, we have the days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and these are the amount of people that visited the zoo on that day, okay? So which day had the fewest visitors? How do you know? So looking at this chart, the smallest number is going to be 214. So Friday had the fewest visitors. How do I know? Because 214 is less than 241. 214 is also less than 372. How do I know that it's less than? So when I draw out 214 and I compare it to 241, I know that this number has more tens. Okay, they have the same amount of hundreds, so I'm going to need to look at their tens and see who has the most, okay? So that's one way that you could also show your work is by drawing out those base 10 blocks. Number 4, the following data shows the number of visitors of the zoo over the weekend. All right, so it looks like we have the same chart, but we have a different question to go with it. A photographer from the newspaper is coming to take photos. She wants to come on the busiest day of the week. Which day should she come? How do you know? So which one has the most visitors? Saturday. So the photographer should come on Saturday because there will be 372 visitors. And how do I know? Well, because if I have 372, and let's compare those to 241, and we could also compare that to 214. Okay, now 214 may look like it has more because it has more ones, but we know that the greater value is the 100. So Friday and Saturday, they only have over 200 people, but Saturday has over 300 people. So I could show my work by this. I could also show my work by showing some comparison equations like this. 372 is greater than 241. 372 is greater than 214. I'm going to keep on going through this thing. So same chart, order the days of the week from the day with the greatest number of visitors to the day with the least. How did you know what order to put them in? All right, so we are going to order these days of the week. We want to start with the day that has the greatest number of visitors to the day with the least. So we are going to be writing the days of the week and putting them in order. So which day has the greatest number of visitors? That's going to be Saturday. So I would order by putting Saturday first. Then we are ordering from greatest to least. So I'm looking for the day that has the second most visitors. So I'm looking at 214 and 241. Sunday has more visitors than Friday. And then the least day or the least amount of visitors come on Friday. So I would end with Friday. All right. How did I know which order to put them in? Well, yes, I'm looking and I'm seeing that I can look at these numbers and kind of see which one is bigger. But I could explain by saying, I knew that Saturday had the most because it had 300s and the other days only had 200s. Okay. And then I was stuck between Sunday and Friday. Sunday and Friday, they both have 200, but I had to look at my tens place, and I knew that Sunday had 40 tens, and 4 tens is much more than 110. Okay. The school library kept track of the number of books checked out in January by genre. Genre is going to be the type of book. So here are genres. We've got biography, mystery, historical fiction, and fantasy, and the number of books checked out. So biography had 231 books checked out, mystery had 209, historical fiction had 253, and fantasy had 187. So use the table to answer the following questions. Which genre was checked out the most in January? So which one of these genres had the most checkouts? It looks like historical fiction, so I would write that. So historical fiction had the most because looking at my hundreds place, these three genres had 200, but this genre had 5 tens versus 3 tens and 0 tens. Okay, so I could make some equations like 253 is greater than 231 because I can see those tens places right there. Using the same data chart, which genre was checked out the least? How do you know? All right, so it looks like fantasy. So I'd write fantasy. How do you know? Because it only has 100 versus these other genres that have 200 or more. Okay, so I could do some equations like 187 is less than 231 or 209 or 253. I could use any of those equations. Last question, using the same data chart, order the genres from most popular to least popular. So most popular is going to have more. So which genre has the most number of checkouts? So that's going to be historical fiction. All right, so got that one. I know that the one that has the least is going to be fantasy. So I know fantasy is going to go at the end. So I'm going to put that down here. But biography and mystery, they both have 200. So I need to go to the tens place. Biography has 3 tens, mystery has no tens. So I know that 3 tens is more. So I would need to put biography. And then mystery would come next. And fantasy is going to be last. So I am kind of showing my work by explaining it, whereas you would need to be writing down how you figured out the order. And I want you to talk about the hundreds versus the tens and those types of things, kind of writing out what I was almost saying, okay? So this was comparing two 3-digit numbers. Thank you for going along and checking your answer, and it's totally okay if you're going back and working with me as well, okay? So thank you very much.